Hello, I'm Dennis Weaver. This is a film about prejudice, but the incident that we're talking about isn't invented. It happened to one man in one city, and it happened under special circumstances. When the riots broke out in Washington, Bill Baldwin drove downtown.
I had seen on television that Dr. King had been killed. So when I got the phone call, there was no doubt in my mind that something was brewing in D.C. So I immediately jumped in my clothes and headed on down to headquarters. As I came off New York Avenue, all I could see was smoke. Smoke everywhere. There was nothing on the street, no one. All the people were gone. No cars, no nothing. My mind immediately went back to Korea. The burning, the shooting, and I began to wonder whether we were going to have a town to live in the next day. I didn't know to what extent the fires had gone. All I could see was what I was involved in at that particular area. And everything was burning. It's a funny thing. They set a fire to a tool company right in the rear of me as I was guarding the firemen putting out a fire at 7th and Vermont Avenue. They set a building fire ablaze right behind me.
Blacks were rioting. The death of the man who had preached nonviolence set off riots in over 100 American cities. But Washington's was the worst. When the riots could not be contained, troops took up battle positions. Why were the blacks in Washington so bitter? Washington has always been a southern city. The Ku Klux Klan paraded openly up Pennsylvania Avenue in the 20s. But as recently as the 1950s, black women could not try on gloves, shoes, or dresses in downtown department stores. Could not take their children shopping in those stores. They were not allowed to use the toilets. To be a black in Washington in those days was to be subject to all sorts of humiliation. In a city that was achieving a black majority, only 1 out of every 10 policemen was black. None over the rank of corporal.
132. Doing roll call up in number 2 precinct before I went down on the motorcycle. We had a sergeant up there when he was reading roll call. He seemed to get his words wrong. On the teletype would be a lookout for a Negro. Look out for a Negro, 5'6", 140 pounds or something, but this damn dumb sergeant, he'd read, look out for a nigger, such and such a description and all. The first time I heard it, I let it go, but the second time I flew hot. And I jumped up and said, where the hell did you find nigger on that teletype? I said, the word is N-E-G-R-O, isn't it? He said, yeah, that's what I said. I said, like hell you did. I said, I don't want to hear that word nigger used at roll call anymore. And I said, if you can't say it, then you said black man or colored man.
A difficult city for blacks. Yet this was the city in which Bill Baldwin had chosen to live. This was the police force he had been so eager to join, he even took a pay cut. Bill Baldwin had been born and raised in the North, a star athlete at the University of Illinois. He met the girl who was to become his wife on a bus when he was a soldier training to go overseas to Korea. Anita Baldwin was a Washington girl, and it was because of her Bill moved here. He had worked in Chicago as a mailman. It was a safe job, but he was restless. He felt he had leadership abilities. And from the moment he put on his new uniform, he liked the work.
It was May of 1956. I came from Chicago, Illinois, to the department here. I took a great loss in pay to do it. And I did that only for one reason, because I was interested in the police department. I felt that I had the ability to deal with people. I felt that I would rather be a part of an organization that was in a position to try to help people more so than hinder. I've never had a dull moment on the police department. When I first came on the force, I patrolled one area for 8 years. The people that I dealt with weren't as fortunate as I was, but I found I was able to communicate with them, to bring out their thoughts, to help them with their problems.
He tried to help the people he came in daily contact with. As a religious man, he felt he should handle people the way you expect to be handled.
The way you talk to a person makes all the difference in the world. I don't care what that person has done. You catch a man coming out of a house, you know he doesn't belong there. And someone say, he broke in my house. When you take that man into custody, you treat him like a person should be treated. You don't rough him up, he's in your custody. And you don't try to abuse him. All people that speed and run red lights are not bad people. They're not criminals, you see. But when you treat them as a criminal, they resent it. In all their rights, they have a right to feel that way. And I have found that my approach to people has really won friends.
Then Bill joined the Canine Corps, and Smokey became part of their lives. The dogs live at home with their policeman partners. At first, Anita was afraid of him.
He just seemed like a big giant at the time, but I didn't want him to feel that I was afraid of him. I proceeded to pet him. I wanted to make a pet out of him. And my husband told me that this was not the thing to do, that he would be a working partner. When I came to the realization that this was to be my husband's partner, this would be the person that would protect my husband on the streets, I immediately adapted a love for this dog.
Between Bill and Smokey, there was a special relationship. The big dog proved to have a talent for police work.
I think he knows his job better than I do. He can see a lot of things that I would never be able to see. He calls my attention to a lot of things that have to be taken into consideration as police work.
Bill Baldwin was a good policeman, and in turn, the force was good to him. He was able to move his family to a new home in a pleasant suburb. But if the years were good to the Baldwins, for most blacks in Washington, they were not. In 1954, the city was finally integrated. But ironically, the law that was to bring the city together triggered the most violent social upheavals in the city's history.